struggles with comfort sitting on the floor. If I accept the pain, my legs go completely numb and takes 30 minutes to get feeling back. Will I find more comfort over time? Well, after a while, you don't feel the legs at all. And eventually you'll be lying in your coffin, so you don't feel any pain there at all. But sit on a chair. That's what the chairs are there for sitting on. And we spent a lot of effort and time trying to find the right type of chair for jhana growth. I even went to the shops, sat on myself and see which was strong enough. And that's very embarrassing. This actually happened when I went to Thailand last. And it was a very nice, they called it a Thai house at the Suan Sampran. And I sat on the toilet seat, crack. Really embarrassing. No, it was already weakened, so it wasn't my fault. They put a new one in and that lasted no problem at all. But no, so you could sit on the chairs is fine. Or you can just sit against, people have got these little stools, the Zen stools, which are great. You've got all sorts of other sort of cushions and stuff. So you experiment, find the best position for you. So you can be comfort. Otherwise, you're going to be not enjoying the meditation. You know that many people, they're afraid of coming to meditation retreats because they've had too much pain. They'd rather go to Guantanamo Bay than to go to a meditation retreat in some places. So it's not about pain. Here you've already mentioned one of the key Buddhist meditation techniques, meditation on the breath. What is that called in Pali? Anapanasati. We do not teach anapanasati. It's anapanasati. So there's nothing to do with pain. So please sit on a cushion against the wall, on a chair. Find yourself the most comfortable one you can get. And if it's too painful in here, just in your room. In your room, you can get everything all set up, just on your bed, or just if it's too hot, in the toilet. Sorry, not the toilet, the restroom. I prefer a restroom. Find a nice place for yourself. And then I like sitting on the floor, cross-legged, because it was 7 years I was in Thailand before I sat on a chair for the first time. In 7 years, there wasn't any chairs. It was always cross-legged. And so after a while, you got so comfortable with this, just trained in it, that when I had to go back to see my family in London, and I had to sit in this economy class, Philippine Airlines, that was the cheapest, and then I was painful, sitting on a chair. And I think I mentioned to you, I'd love to have been able to sit cross-legged on the floor, but the flight attendants won't let me. Blocking the aisle. Is butter allowed after 12 p.m.? 12 p.m. is like midnight, isn't it? If you're up that time, I don't think anyone will see you, so. In other words, in the afternoon. Actually, it sort of is allowable, I suppose, if you want to eat it. They have, like in Sri Lanka, they have the 5 medicines. And they have ghee and butter and sugar and honey. What's the other one? Not banana. That's wishful thinking, Ananda. Oil, that's right, oil.
Candy.
Yeah, oil, yeah.
Candy, right?
Yeah. They have the oil as well. And so I remember, who was it once gave me these 5, what did they call it? When all mixed, when they're all mixed together. Just,
I think it's called Chatumadura.
yeah, Chatumadura, yeah, that's right, yeah. And so they gave it to me once and I tried it. And oh my goodness, if you really want to evacuate your bowels, that's the way to go. That was if that's medicine, I'd rather be sick. So anyway, but it's just because there's stomach was made in England, it wasn't made in Sri Lanka. So sometimes that's different foods with different stomachs. So, but butter is like oil. Yeah, I think you can probably get that in there. So can you? Do you reckon? Yeah, but okay. We're distant about it because it just makes you the urge to purge. That was happened when I first went to Thailand. They had these. They called it in the translation embolic myrobalan. It was just Samoas and Makampons. That was in the northeast of Thailand. And this was in the evening, only on the one prayer nights. And I thought, wow, what's this for? He said, oh, it's medicine. They didn't tell me what it was for. So I had some, and it's just, this little fruits which grow on a tree. And that was just, I never went to sleep that night. I spaced up all night on the toilet. Evacuating, it was like a, what's it called? Not purgative, a laxative, yeah, really strong. So anyway, I don't know why people want to do that in the afternoon or evening. But anyway, yeah, I suppose so, but whatever you want to use it for. Maybe it's supposed to be for a reason, not because you're peckish or you want something to eat, just something to nibble. There's many of other sort of healthy things. Sometimes where there is a loophole, monks and nuns would exploit it. They started making ice cream. These are strict monks. So how can you make ice cream? Well, they use coffee mate and sugar, and oh my goodness, that must make you sick. Yeah, but it tastes nice. That's crazy stuff. So you have a reason for these things. If you're really tired, or especially if you missed your lunch or something, then maybe some of these things. But you don't really need those stuff. Anyway, why is there so much saliva when I meditate today? Is it because of cravings and unconsciousness? Probably. You're probably getting the food limiter. Which makes you get saliva. You're thinking of food, what's for dinner, what's for... Know that sometimes that does happen sometimes, because once you start to be aware of it, it gets worse. So if you can just forget about it, look, when you're watching a movie, or you're just reading a book, or you just eat, or you're making the food, you're doing your chores, you don't think of saliva. But now, even I'm thinking about it now because I'm mentioning it. So there is a solution to that. People have really lots of saliva problems that we wanted to borrow, because many of our disciples are dentists, so you can actually borrow, you can actually donate if you like. Just run this little machine and go. And that will solve your saliva problem. When you meditate, you may go. I don't know if this is Q&A or just evening entertainment, comedy hour with Ajahn Brahm. But no, it's a lot of the time it is simply because that thinking about it, it's a good little meditation object. Your saliva, just let it be. Can you just let it be? And just don't really get involved in it. Just stand back from it. It's like your thoughts. The more you try and stop them, the more they become a problem. So if you just leave them alone, then they float off and off they're gone. You don't really get involved in them. You don't engage with them. You don't engage with the saliva. After a while, it just stops. Simple. If you need to swallow, just swallow. It's not against the precepts. So just swallow. Anyway, it'll stop. If it starts to dribble, the best way is to meditate upside down. So it just that way. It's a monk who does that. Good. Why is my nimitta not bright? Is it because I talk too much on my mobile phone? You've nailed it. It is true that this is the thing. I haven't really got to nimittas yet to explain all about them, but they're fascinating. parts of meditation practice. They're mentioned in the suttas, the Upakalesa Sutta, that's Majjhima 108. Upakalesa, it's the Buddha, it's all about sort of nimittas. The only problem was that, I read these suttas in Pali, so I can actually see them. It just came out of nimitta this, nimitta that, nimitta something else. But in the translation by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, he calls it that thing. Because it doesn't really sort of, but there's a footnote there. So you look at the footnote, this means nimitta. It's all about dealing with the problems with nimittas, so they can actually just get quiet, tranquil, and grow, and just lead you into the jhanas. But anyway, if your nimitta is not too bright, why? And it is because that the nimitta it is like you're looking in the mirror of mindfulness at your citta, your mind. It is the citta you're looking at. That's why it comes in, it's very clear in the third Satipatthana, explained in the Anapanasati Sutta. It's you're aware of the citta. And this is just a direct observation of it, not thinking about it or assuming it. It's this beautiful light which comes up in the mind. And, the Buddha always mentions, that this citta is pabhasara, it's radiant, when it's not affected by kilesa, defilements. So, when you have this beautiful light in the mind, then it means you've got not so many defilements at that time. They're subdued. But what happens is that when that nimitta first comes up, sometimes it's a bit dirty, grubby, just like a white cloth which hasn't been washed for a while. And that's just the nature of it, because you can't sort of avoid it, you can't sort of deny it. Your mind is pretty clear there, you can't sort of deny these things, you can't hide them. There is your nimitta. And if you have been a bit sort of selfish, breaking a precept here, or just stretching the rules this way and that way, then you see it straight away. Your nimitta is not pure, because your actions haven't been pure, your sila. And it's not just about keeping rules, it's how you keep the rules. Your kindness, compassion, forgiveness. So when I first mentioned that, I remember it was in the Buddhist Zen Fellowship over in PJ at the time, and this, my attendant there, he came up to me and he said, Ajahn, I need to talk to you. I said, why? He said, well, I saw my nimitta and it was really dirty. I said, what you been doing? He said, yes, I admit it. He'd been sort of breaking his precepts. And you can't avoid it. It's right there, and it's just like a dirty rag. But I told him just a way to get past that, as well as keeping your precepts. But on the opposite part of that, there are some people I've known for a long time, and they're just such kind people. They would never say a nasty thing to anybody. They're always there to help. They've got so much kindness and compassion. What you recognize as a pure-hearted person. Generous, kind, forgiving, always volunteering for something or other, without asking for anything back in return. You know people like that. At least I hope you know lots of people like that. They just give. They never sort of complain or ask for anything. Those are really pure-hearted people. Now, those people I know, especially if I've been around them for a long time, been members of our Buddhist society, and I know them, this is really great because I know that when they get a nimitta, wow, that's going to be a real big one. They're just such pure jittas. So that when the body starts to vanish and then it comes out, wow, they really get into deep meditation quickly. It is why the precepts, your goodness, your kindness are important. This is an eightfold path. You have your right view, and from your right view, you should understand what it's supposed to be doing. There's nobody in here anyway, so who's doing all this struggling? So we learn how to let go of things. And that becomes our second factor of the Eightfold Path, Samma Sankappa, the right motivation. It's where you're coming from. Thoughts of renunciation, kindness and gentleness. Sometimes people base a bit about, resist a bit about renunciation, so sometimes I call it make it peace. Make it peace, be kind, be gentle. I never said that. I know that some people have, well, I suppose I did, but they got on the back of their T-shirts, make peace, be kind, be gentle, Ajahn Brahm. I sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable about that because I never invented that. The Buddha did. That's the second factor of the Eightfold Path, a nice sort of English translation. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. That's the second factor of the Eightfold Path. So once you've got the right view, you know you don't get things by grabbing them, striving them. You make peace, you let go, renunciation, kindness, gentleness. So the whole idea about sitting through pain or, being really strict on yourself, that's not gentle. There's no kindness there if, you're really tired and you push yourself rather than just taking a break and having a rest or, moving or scratching if it's really itchy. It's ridiculous when people just are not kind and gentle to themselves. And it's against the second factor of the Eightfold Path. And once you can let go, make peace, be kind, be gentle, of course all the precepts go in place. You can't get peaceful by arguing with or just watching movies or just trying to sort of entertain yourself or having sex or watching football matches. I don't think anyone get peaceful when they watch a football match. They get excited. And the wrong speech comes very quickly in football matches. and so you got wrong speech, action, livelihood. It's always because of craving. I want more. I don't know how much you want more. So when all those that you get your make peace, be kind, be gentle, all the precepts usually fall into line. Become pure-hearted. You don't want anything, you're just making peace, being kind, being gentle, then you don't break precepts. Don't need to. And then from there, then you start sort of the right effort. What is that effort? It's right letting go. It's actually letting go of stuff. Letting go of unwholesome states of mind. Let go of them. You let go of the best way of letting go of wholesome states of mind is putting wholesome ones in there, good ones. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. Oh, it's just so beautiful. The best way of protecting against thieves is having really good people stay in your house. Then the thieves won't come in. So these are all just, and from that you get the mindfulness. And remember I read out yesterday, the seventh factor, the right mindfulness having restrained the 5 precepts. That is the job of the previous factors of the Eightfold Path. You restrain them, you lessen them. You restrain unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome ideas coming in the mind. You kept your precepts. You're pure-hearted. When you're pure-hearted, it's so easy. So mindfulness is really strong. It's so beautiful. And samadhi just comes. So that's actually how the Eightfold Path is not just different things. They all sort of combine together. So your nimitta is like a sign of how your previous 1 to 7 of the Eightfold Path has been practiced. If you've been really diligent in them, really doing them sort of properly, then your nimitta becomes very beautiful. But anyway, the loophole. I always like loopholes because you just want people to develop stuff. If you do have a nimitta that's not bright, then it's because of low energy. So just relax, be still, don't complain. That will make it even more dull. Just stay there. And then look for the most beautiful parts in that dull nimitta. If it's a dirty nimitta, there's always one part of your white cloth which is nice, which is beautiful, which is pure. Other parts are dirty. Don't be a fault finder and look for the dull parts or the dirty parts. Look for the nice parts. That's where the positive mind, those people who have the special blood type, the best blood type for meditation, be positive. That's a joke. No one wants to see me. Be positive. Anyway, if you've got a positive mind, you don't see the good in people. We have gratitude for all the wonderful things which we have. You don't, look at the two bad bricks in the wall, but when you have a positive mind state, you look at the nimitta, and you don't look at the two dirty parts of it, the two bad bricks in your nimitta. You actually look for the nice parts of the nimitta. And then what happens? Because you focus, it's like zooming in on Google Earth. You zoom in, and it gets, because you're just zooming on the nice part, in the nice part you zoomed into, there's another nice part. You just zoom in over there, you zoom in over here, you zoom closer and closer to the most beautiful part. That is how you can take a dull, dirty nimitta and go right into it, make it into a beautiful nimitta. If it's a dull nimitta, there's always one part which is brighter than the other, and you can zoom into the bright part. So that's how it can be done. But of course, the easy one is to don't talk too much on your mobile phone. Dear Ajahn, watching the tree grows doesn't work for me. I tend to blink and therefore missing all the growing. Could you please suggest an alternative? Okay, watch the tree not grow. In other words, what's another one? You can... what's this? The story of the monk. Let's actually be a little bit more gender neutral. That one day somebody rang up a very good nun just outside of Sydney. And they asked her, oh, can you come to my house today to do a blessing? And she replied, sorry, I'm busy today. What are you doing today? Said the caller. I'm doing nothing. This is what monastics are supposed to do, not running around all the time like Ajahn Brahm, but Hypocrite of the Week award, I'm going to award myself. But learning how just to relax and learn how to do nothing. So this is my doing nothing day. Oh, very good. It's nice to see people are actually teaching by example. Well done. So he rang up the next day, got through to the same nun, and said, oh, it's you again, wonderful. Look, I know that you were busy yesterday, but can you come to my house today? It's an important blessing. And she said, no, I'm busy again. You're busy again? What are you doing today? Same as yesterday. I'm doing nothing. But that's your excuse yesterday. But, said the nun, I'm not finished yet. So get doing nothing out of the way first. And once you've done that, finished, then you can do other stuff. In other words, and the other bit about learning how to do nothing, that was a lovely story. I'm sure you know. If you don't, I don't know where you've been. Or maybe, you have heard this many times before, but many of my close disciples are getting a bit old now, so they may have actually forgotten it because of old age. But anyway, this was the Ajahn Buddhadasa building his main hall. At the start of the rains retreat, the full moon in July, that's when you're not supposed to do any work, so he sent all the builders home. A couple of days later, a visitor came, and they asked this great monk, when is your hall going to be finished? And he replied, my hall is finished. What are you talking about? Said the visitor. There is no roof, above the building. There's no glass in the windows. There is bags all over the place, cement bags and rubbish. Are you going to leave it like this? How can you say it's finished? To which this great monk said, sir, what's done is finished. And then he went off to meditate. What a beautiful thing that is. So next, when you go home, remember that. When you go to work and your boss said, oh, is the report finished? You say, boss, what's done is finished. Okay, time and place, please. But it's a wonderful thing you need to learn how to do nothing, which is a wonderful art. The art of doing nothing, just being here and enjoying the moment. Dear Ajahn, does the colour of the robe reflect the number of years of practice, seniority, or jhana? Oh, yeah, because the darker robe, that means you're just starting off, because you've only just been recently ordained. And when your robe gets really... No, of course, that's a lot of Gomayang. The wonderful thing, there's some of the anecdotes you read from the suttas. There was one monk who was, he was second generation Buddhist monk because his teacher went to the west coast of India, and this monk got faith with him and ordained with this monk. And after the monk had been practiced enough that he wanted to go and see the Buddha. And so he asked permission, and of course in those days you can't sort of get an aircraft, you can't get a train or a bus or a car, you have to walk. So it would take him many, many days, a few weeks. And so he was walking, towards the Ganges Valley, where the Buddha would roam around. And so on one occasion he came to a potter's house. And I mean, not the potter's house in Perth with the evangelical Christians and stuff, he wouldn't go there anyway. But anyway, he went to this potter's house, this workshop, and they had this little lean-to, which was a little shed where he would do his work. And he asked, can I just stay here for the night, said this monk. And so they put some hay down there, just monks, pretty simple. And so he was meditating there, and then another monk came. And the second monk said, I'm sorry, but I was looking to stay the night here. Is that okay as well? He said, oh yeah, sure, there's plenty of space for both of us. And so he allowed the other second monk to come in as well. And then they both started meditating. And the monk from the west looked, this monk, so I'm allowed to say he's meditating as well, so I better carry on meditating. And they both meditated throughout the night together. And in the morning, before they went on alms round, the monk who came in second asked the new monk, he said, where are you from? And he said, I'm from this west coast, not United States. The west coast of India somewhere. I'm a disciple of this monk, I forget who he was. But he said, what are you doing? I'm traveling to see the master, the Buddha. And he said, oh really, yeah. And so that monk was your teacher? He said, yeah. And the second monk said, you're a very good meditator, it's credit to your teacher. And the monk who came first said to the second monk, you're also a very good meditator as well. Oh, thank you. Who's your teacher? I haven't got any. I'm the Buddha. I apologize. Because he'd never seen the Buddha before. And the wonderful thing was that he couldn't tell, who the Buddha was. His robes was just the same as any other monk's robes. He wasn't sort of given any special hat or pips or medals or whatever, like marks of seniority. He'd be able to walk with no one really knowing, unless you knew who the Buddha was, who he was. I thought that was just a wonderful symbol, of non-arrogance, equity, just not showing off, just being a little Buddha, and you didn't know who he was. And the other story was of this on alms round one day, that the monks were ordering around and tweaking the ears of this little novice monk. And when the Buddha saw that, he called all the monks for a meeting. He said, see that novice monk? It was called Sumana. He said, you don't know what you've been playing with. That monk Sumana, you're putting his ears and knocking him on the head. Basically that was to try and, I don't know what they do that for, but anyway, he said that novice is fully enlightened, and he has great psychic powers. And this was a story. He'd just done a big battle with a naga in the Himalayas, and from that, the Buddha warned other monks, lay people. Sometimes you don't know who's enlightened, who's not, who's got the powers, who hasn't, because good monks and nuns never show it off. Anyway, we keep it secret, we hide it, because we don't want anybody to actually to look upon us as different or special or elite. It's like some beautiful humility, which I really like in the Sangha. We don't get special hats or golden robes or lame robes made out of satin or silk to show our status. When I recently went to Hong Kong to give some teachings, I never came back with a Louis Vuitton yarn bag or Versace robes. They don't do things like that. So that is why, the Buddha actually said there are 3 small things, 3 or 4. There's 3 small things you'd always be careful of. The small bushfire, there's 4 things. Small bushfire, because a small fire can grow so big it can burn down the whole forest, with our monasteries as well. A small snake, just because it's a tiny snake, it can be still venomous and kill you. They say a small prince, he may be only a small prince, but he remembers you. When he's in power, you're going to be in big trouble. And lastly, a small monk or a small nun. You don't know who's enlightened and who's not. So therefore, be careful of the 4 small things. Anyway, so the colour of the robe doesn't reflect anything. Does Ajahn, by doing walking meditation, do you get nimittas? Otherwise, the object of it is to calm yourself down, is it? You can get a nimitta doing walking meditation, but if you do, don't waste it. Just go and sit down. Even sit down on your path there. But it's the reason we put those paths so close by, so you can actually come back and sit down as soon as possible. So you can actually, because the nimitta, if it's strong, it means to know that you're losing your connection with your 5 senses. I always thought that you can't get into jhanas, which is the next level, doing walking meditation, but somebody told me that yes, you can, because the evidence was this monk, who was in Thailand, when he was on the walking meditation path, he would get into jhanas, and he proved it by all the cuts and bruises on his face. Because when you get into jhana, your 5 senses shut down. So you're walking, he doesn't know where he's walking to. So if you do the walking in here, I know you're in jhana, you go bang into the wall. So don't do that, for goodness sake. If you're likely to do that, we'll get you a motorcycle helmet so you don't bang anything. But if you do it outside, depends which direction you're going. If you're going in that direction, you'll probably end up in Sydney somewhere by the time you come out. Because one of the signs of the deep meditations of jhanas is that your sight, sound, smell, taste, touch are subdued to the point that they're gone. You just have the 6th sense, the mind consciousness. It's still good doing walking meditation, because if you sit down all the time, you'll get sore, you'll get ache, and it's pretty unhealthy. It's not the middle way for your body. Unless you get into very deep meditation, then your body's fine. That's a weird part. You know that if you sit meditate for an hour or 2 hours, you're a bit stiff afterwards. If you get into deep meditation, 4 hours, 5 hours, you get up and you feel just so fit and no pain, no aches anywhere. Like you could run the 100 meters for Australia and beat Usain Bolt. Is he still running? Anyway, whoever it is, and win the Olympic gold. Anyway, to Ajahn, when you meditate, you look so still and peaceful. Yeah, you always are aware, know when it is time to stop and ring the singing bowl. Because I peek every now and again. So you can catch me on the on the video if it's going. But there's other times, it's because I've been a bit tired the first few days, but other times what you do if you really want to experiment, you sit down, close your eyes and say, I've got to come out to, 10 to 8 to do the chanting. That was actually the mistake of that monk who sat for 8 days. So, he should have just programmed his mind, I've got to come out, to teach the Dhamma. So, what you do is you sit down and say, meditation time now, I must come out at 10 to 8 in order to start the chanting. It's amazing, if you say that you've got mindfulness, you just open your eyes and it's 10 to 8. So it's a wonderful thing to do. If you don't know how to do that, do it when you go to bed tonight. When you go to bed tonight, no need to set your alarm clock, you tuck yourself in, make yourself nice and comfortable, and you say, I will get up at 4 a.m. I will wake up at 4 a.m. I will wake up at 4 a.m. And if you believe that, it will happen. You wake up at 4 a.m. But many of you will probably say, well, maybe not 4, maybe about 5, or how about 6? But whatever time it is, it's amazing how well that works. This morning you spoke of meditators having jhanas. Will you please explain what they are? That is coming tomorrow. Do the jhanas, because that's part of the opening the lotus. Wow, getting quite good. Aware, whenever I identify the breathing more, slow down and lightly, also my breathing starts to wake up again. And then I still keep aware of the quiet at the moment, my breathing slows down lightly, then I identify my breathing. How is this breathing wake up again? How and when this process is changed, or I have to change other way to be aware? Oh, all it really means is just be patient. You're not looking for anything to change, you're looking for things to deepen. So you go in, not on. So you're watching your breath. If it's your breath, that's good enough. This is good enough for me, just to be aware of this breath happening now, and just care for it. Don't try and develop it, don't try and cure it, just be with it. And if you just be with it, because you're not doing anything, energy comes into the mindfulness, you see more of the breath, it's easier to watch, it's happier to watch. All the time you just don't do anything. Just observe. It is like traveling not on Thai Airways, not on Singapore Airways, not on Air Sri Lanka, not on Garuda. Who else we got here? Qantas. Oh yeah, Qantas. I never try, because Qantas is always bumpy. It always has turbulence more than other. But I found out why Qantas is always the most turbulent, bumpy aircraft. Because it's a flying kangaroo. Bump, bump, bump. Okay, anyway, so Qantas or whatever. But anyway, when it comes to the domestic flights, I always like flying Virgin. I think that's appropriate for a monk. So where was I going with this? On the airline which I really like, Buddha Air. And I made that up, but apparently there is a Buddha Air somewhere, in Nepal somewhere or something. So when you fly Buddha Air, it is wonderful. You just get up, you get inside, and you sit on your seat, and you don't do anything. You just sit there, and then it's like the flight attendant comes and say, Madam, for the in-flight menu, we have 4 items today. First jhana, second jhana, third jhana, or fourth jhana. Which would you like today? And then, second jhana, that was last bit. Third jhana, please. Okay, man. And they come back later on and they serve this beautiful nimitta, and then in that nimitta you go into the third jhana. You don't do anything, it's like served. And then later on in the flight, they say, oh, well, no, special offer because this is the 50th anniversary, no, 2600th anniversary of Buddha Air. We've got special today, psychic powers. Which psychic power would you like? So this is special. So, oh, well, yeah, reading minds. No, people's minds aren't worth reading. It's true, Never be afraid of people reading your mind. Any person who ever has that ability, they read one mind and that's it, never again. It's like reading, bad book or Pulp Fiction or something, bad movie. So you're perfectly safe. But anyway, what was the other thing? So and then they come up later on in the flight, for the next meal we have stream meaning, once returning, non-returning arhat. What would you like, sir? And that's pretty much, sort of what it's like. It comes to you, as long as you're very still. But if you make a ruckus, if you demand things, I want stream meaning now. Then, of course, you don't get any service from the flight attendants. So I remember the story. I read this in it was an Air Asia magazine. On the flight somewhere or other, and just read it, and it was this from one of their captains. He said about this time there was a man sort of sitting down, and in the aisle seat there was a parrot. And so parrot could speak. So when this is how I read it, okay, so please don't be offended. When the flight attendant came, the flight attendant asked the guy, can I get you a drink, sir? And he said, yes, I'll have an orange juice. And the parrot said, and I'll have a whiskey, you bitch. What? And, that was not the way to talk to anyone on an aircraft, but anyway, the flight attendant was just so confused that she went and got a whiskey for the parrot, and then the guy said, my orange juice, please. And by that time, the parrot had downed his whiskey, and I'd have another one, you cow. That was really gross. So the flight attendant quickly went there and got another whiskey for the parrot and forgot the second time, the orange juice. So the guy thought, well, the only way to get any service on this aircraft is the parrot method. So he said, and don't forget my orange juice next time, you pig. And then flight attendant returned with these two big male flight attendants. And they took both of them out of their seat, opened the emergency exit and threw them both out. Now, I know that's impossible, but forget about those details. And as they were thrown out, sort of falling to their death from 36,000 feet, the parrot turned to the gentleman and said, you've got a very, very bad mouth for someone who can't fly. Okay. So you've got a psychic power. Next one, how to let go of the past. So easy to let go of the past. First of all, okay, that's another question. Fell out. So how to let go of the past? First of all, is it really worthwhile to carry the past? Does it really have any benefits to you? So you've got to first of all just to assess the benefits of holding on to the past or letting it go. So first of all, the negative memories of the past, people who did something wrong, they hurt you, said the wrong thing, mistreated you. That is so toxic. So if you're going to keep anything of the past, keep all the wonderful memories of the past. They're sometimes worth keeping. All the wonderful things which you have done, your charity, your forgiveness, your kindness. That's actually one of the meditations called Chaganusati, Siranusati. Remembering your precepts, your goodness. That actually inspires you. Or mudita, your gratitude, seeing the wonderful happiness of other people, the wonderful services. If you don't do it yourself, you see other people really serving. That's mudita. So all those things is looking at the past, the positive things in the past. They uplift you. They inspire you. They get you really into a long way ahead in meditation. You get deep very quickly. So if you're going to remember the past, remember the good stuff, but the bad stuff, how do you let it go? Now, first of all, you realize it's not worth keeping. Number two, that you can let it go. It's possible. You don't always have to be traumatized by your past. I learned this, that it's possible, from my father. So my father was born in Liverpool, and he had a very, very bad upbringing. And so every time, as the young man would ask your father, who's my grandfather? What did he do? What did my paternal grandfather do? And all we knew, he died in the Second World War in Liverpool. We didn't know why or how. My father would refuse to speak about him. And so one day, I must have been about 14 or 15, I really pressed my dad, look, I need to know about my paternal grandfather. And so that's when my father opened up to me. And you know what he said? Please excuse me, it's bad language, but he said, your grandfather was a bastard. And I never heard my father say such things. But I have to say that because that was the effect, and that stunned me. And it started to open up why. He said, no, my paternal grandfather in Liverpool, he was a plumber, and there was hardly any work. When he got any money, he went out and got drunk. And had so many kids, because there was no contraception, no family planning. And it was just a terrible life. He'd come back drunk, he'd take off his leather belt, and he would whip any kid he saw for no reason whatsoever. My father was often at the end of that belting. He hadn't done anything wrong. His father was drunk. But he said, even though how much that hurt, what really hurt, what my father could never stand, was when his father laid into his mother, his wife. Domestic violence, with no possibility of redress, no place to run. And it was just gross. Because my father loved my mother a lot, not my grandmother. I never saw her, obviously. But that was just so tough. He was traumatized by that abuse. But, weird, my father could never punish me. And he tried a couple of times when I deserved it, but you could see his heart wasn't into it. He just couldn't do it. Because he told me that when he was on the end of one of those beltings, or he saw my grandmother being abused, he said he made a promise to himself that if he survives, which was, touch and go, if he survives and he ever has kids, he would never ever do that. And he didn't. And there was a way of very severe domestic child abuse, not sexual but physical. And he learnt from it. He said, no, I'm never going to do that to another human being, especially if it's my child. And he never did. And so that showed me you can learn from the past instead of repeating the past. And so that was, amazing thing that he could do that. So you can let it go. When I look back, paternal grandfather I never met, he apparently died of TB, tuberculosis during the Second World War, not a bomb or anything, in Liverpool. Just a really sort of, hey, a hellish life in the earth plane. No hope, depressed, angry, no sort of meaning for his life. So anyway, my father could never forget that past, but he'd never repeat it. Would never have sort of the idea of revenge, but he learned that you can let things go. And otherwise he would have beaten me to a pulp. I deserved it, not to a pulp, but deserved, whatever, but I just couldn't do it. So anyway, you can, it's possible to let it go. So the next question is how you let it go. And how you let it go is a little simile which I developed because I do have, as you know, a playful mind, and playing is creativity. So I've known a lot that many people say, if you are going to let go of something, the first thing you do, you have to acknowledge it, bring it up, be honest to yourself. What did you do? Or what happened to you? And of course, the usual way of doing that is writing it on a piece of paper. Because when you write it clearly, not just scribble, clearly on a piece of paper, that mindfulness, that carefulness reinforces, what it is really bothering you. So you write it down on a piece of paper. That's standard psychology. However, I remember there's a group over in Sydney, ABCAP, that's Enkong Tan's group. So when he asked me to go there to give a session on Buddhism and psychotherapy, this is what I said, and they loved this. And I saw them all writing down their notes so they could use this in their practice. I said, great, but now the type of paper you should use. Because some people have done so much bad stuff, they've got so much bad stuff to let go. Just one A4 sheet of paper is not enough. So, toilet paper, whole roll of it. It's amazing how much stuff you can get on one roll of toilet paper, and it's very cheap. And the next thing is when you write it down, the colour of the ink has to be dark brown. It's called association. So you write down all the things that you've done or someone else has done, the negative stuff which you want to let go of. You write it down in brown ink on toilet paper, carefully, in detail. And then, as you are writing it down in brown ink, dark brown ink on toilet paper, an association is made with the other brown stuff which goes on toilet paper. Now, when you've got brown stuff on toilet paper, not from a felt pen, but the other stuff, would any of you keep that? Would you fold it up and put it in your pocket and carry it around? Even if you've only got a tiny bit of brown stuff on a sheet of toilet paper, even if you were the most environmentally friendly person in the world, would you fold it up because you haven't used all of it yet? You haven't used the other side? How many of you only use one side of the toilet paper? You're destroying the planet. Even you've got a tiny bit of on a piece of toilet paper, you throw it in the bowl. So you're making a very strong connection. This stuff you've got on the toilet paper, the thing you want to let go of, is dirty, stinky. It's not the sort of stuff you can keep. It has to be let go of. So once you convince yourself this needs to be let go, then you do the ceremony. So you go into the holy shrine where you've spent a lot of your life. They sometimes call it the throne room. And you don't sit on the place because you just first of all, you can sit down on it first of all, but then you read. You read from beginning to end slowly, just to reinforce, all this stuff in brown ink on toilet paper. And once you've read it the second time, then you do the ceremony. With not rush, mindful, careful. This is important. Make sure you do it right. You put it in the toilet bowl, and then you may even chant something like Anicca Vada Sankara, impermanent all stuff, or whatever, the Metta Sutra or something. Then press the button and watch all that stuff go where it belongs, in the sewers, to get composted. So that is how we let go of some of the, and apparently it's not a joke, it actually works. Because it is funny, it's a bit sort of on the edge, that's why you remember it. So if I just say, I'll just let it go, yeah, it doesn't work. But because it is powerful associations, then it does work. But please don't do it here. Otherwise, the caretakers, who have to clean those toilets afterwards and actually unblock the sewage system, they will really get upset at me. So that's one way of doing it, letting go. And there's nothing you can't let go of, which is amazing. And of course, the example is, always remember the example of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. It was brilliant. And I read some of the transcripts there, and some of the transcripts were a combination of absolute grossness and beauty. And the one I always remember was a white South African secret police officer that was actually confessing how he'd tortured and killed a black African activist. Extrajudicially. And what happened was, if you admitted, what you'd done truthfully, then there'll be amnesty. Because that's the only way you could actually find out what really happened. Otherwise, people would just deny it because, there'd be punishments afterwards. Who would actually confess when you're going to get executed for it? So when there was amnesty, they can get to the truth of things. And that's the only way you can get some healing, to acknowledge, and then you can understand and learn, make sure it doesn't happen again. But this particular white South African police officer was in the courtroom confessing about how he tortured and killed this activist. And it was absolutely gross. And when you actually confess like that, the fellow was shaking. It's just emotional, really hard for him. He did it, but to actually to say in front, on camera, have it recorded, in front of the man's widow. This was here she heard for the first time how the love of her life, the father of her children, had been brutally, unjustly, illegally tortured and killed. He never knew what happened to him. Disappeared in the middle of the night. No way of finding out, except here. And after his testimony, they did have guards who were supposed to, protect, the person who's confessing from being assaulted. But this widow was just too fast and too strong. She jumped over the barricade, evaded a couple of policemen, and went straight for the murderer of her husband. Put her arms around him, hugged him, said, "I forgive you. I forgive you." And just the whole courtyard just burst out crying. Because every time I tell that, you can feel the beauty, inspiration of that. If someone could forgive to that degree, the love of her life, husband, all those of you who are married, disappeared, no reason at all, and then hear in detail what happened to him. And instead of trying to find revenge, you could let go and say, "I forgive you." If that could be done, I don't know what you have done or other people have done, surely that can happen as well. That's why it was inspirational. Sometimes we say, oh, you can't forgive that. Sometimes it's the unforgivable. There's no such thing as the unforgivable. Anyway, where we go. Is that true when meditate one can have a tingling sensation like needle, and if one delights in that sensation it could lead to a deep meditation state like first jhana? If you don't deliberately delight it but allow delight to happen, let go, yes, of course. But it's still a bit of a ways to go. Sometimes a little tingling sensation in the skin. All that is your mindfulness is increasing. So just as I mentioned, when your mindfulness increases, you can see a world in a grain of sand, a heaven in a wildflower, a tingle on the tip of your nose, and eternity in an hour. In other words, you become so sensitive because your mindfulness is increasing. What you see is actually delightful, or feel is delightful. There was a phenomenon which was really common, that people would be meditating and they could smell these really fragrant smells, like jasmine smell, or like lilies, or what's the other, like roses, or whatever. And they thought, wow, this must be devas coming. Beautiful, sweet smell. It's not devas. Those smells, there's always smells around, but you're being sensitive to them, and they are perceived as delightful smells. And so even your nose becomes very enhanced, and what you smell is really fragrant. So this is actually how the senses start to be beautiful and really, really sharp, which is why you can see a breath from the beginning to the end. And it's delightful what you see. So that's with the physical sensation. If you feel a tingling, they just let it do its job. Beautiful tingling, and then after a while that sense will turn off. The last question. What is the connection between jhana and the third eye? You know, they say that 4 eyes, that's when you wear glasses. So a lot. But you know, I always wanted, when I was a kid, but you know, that instead of having like a pair of glasses like this, to have a monocle. Because I always thought a monocle was really cool. You know, so to me, you know what I mean by monocle, just one eye, which, you know, these these traditional English gentlemen would wear his monocle. I always wanted one of those, never got one. But anyway, so that I always thought that was what the third eye was. If this is 4 eyes, the monocle was the third eye. But anyhow, what do you want a third eye for? Isn't 2 enough? Trouble. But what the third eye was, because that was one of the books which I read when I was a teenager, Lobsang Rampa and the Third Eye. Really good fun. Well written. But it was still Gomayang, but it was well written, Gomayang. And what it means is developing psychic powers. The third eye. I don't know what the psychic power was. To read people's minds and see events happening a long way away. Now this was, you all know what happened to Devadatta. Devadatta developed the jhanas and had psychic powers, but then he became so proud and arrogant, you know, that he was as good, if not better, than the Buddha. And that sort of, you know, led to him losing it, basically. And losing his psychic powers as well. And similar thing happened when I first went to Wat Pah Pong. There was a monk there, and it was only the first couple of weeks when I was there. And he was much senior than me, but the word went around, he developed some psychic powers, and he could, what's called like the divine ear, hearing sounds a long way away. Now, if a monk says that, and they're making it up, that's like the parajika offense. It's disrobing. So we take it really seriously. If a person makes a claim, you've got to check it out. So, when he made that claim that he had that power, they checked it out, and it was true. confirmed. They'd ask him, what was the conversation, in the village 6 kilometers away, and it was actually accurate. So he actually did develop that, which was really inspiring at first. But the next day that he sat in Ajahn Chah's chair and said, I'm the abbot now, or something like that. And it was just like, it reminded me of the story of Devadatta, but this was a modern, similar story. He was just so, his ego got just such a huge boost. He thought he was the teacher. And Ajahn Chah was obviously incredibly skilled. He took him aside and explained to him just what was going on. This monk was respectful enough to the teacher. He admitted that he'd overestimated. And it wasn't sort of the psychic power was there, but not that he was enlightened. And so the next morning, even though he was a senior monk, in the line of monks, about 30, 40 monks there, the refectory was just this long hall and monks on either side with Ajahn Chah at the top. And he bowed to every monk, doesn't matter how senior or how junior, he bowed to each one of us to the very end. And then he left and never seen him again. So that was interesting, that those psychic powers can sometimes make you arrogant, like Devadatta. So yeah, they can come from the jhanas, but unless you have a grounding in the right view and the sila, you can fluke them, and then sometimes you don't know how they fit in, and it can cause you a lot of trouble. But interesting. So some of these things you read in the suttas, sometimes you see some of these things happen in your life. So the jhana of the third eye, it's sometimes people have these abilities and they're born with them, which is really weird. And the only thing it can be that these must have been powers from a previous life, and they carry on these powers in this life. There are people like mediums and spirit doctors and stuff. And sometimes people say, oh, Ajahn Brahm, you're just too gullible. Such things can't exist. Now remember, I was a theoretical physicist. I was trained in skepticism, but also, to have an open mind. And I did mention him earlier, good old Professor Bernhard Car, but the story, how we met. Remember, I became a Buddhist when I was only 16 by reading books. And I never knew where to go next. I read a book about Buddhism. I thought that was what I liked. That was my path. How do you take it further? And I didn't know anybody was a Buddhist. And I never saw any Buddhism, so I just got some books and read them myself. But then when I went to Cambridge University, they had what was called Society's Fair. It was like every possible club, society, association, for your social life was actually on offer there, in the Corn Exchange. You could even join the Hare and Hounds Club and go fox hunting, as Snooty University, if you wanted to. So I wasn't interested in the Hare and Hounds Club, but what I was going around, I saw Buddhist Society of Cambridge University. And that when you were a Buddhist, but you didn't know what to do next, and you saw there was actually a club, a society there, I was excited. I remember that time. You got Buddhist Society of Western Australia, and it's just so easy. But to find a society, and you're going to spend the next 3 years in this university, I was just so excited. And I sort of went to the little counter there. There was this young man sitting there, and I said, I want to join. And he said, you don't have to join. Just come and see. Ehipasiko. And I said, look, I want to join. I'm a Buddhist. You don't have to. We're not into money. You just come and just see and join later on when you think you like it. And I got angry. I got out a pound note, slammed it and said, join me now. And that was Bernhard. Professor Bernhard Car. That's where we met. And it was really funny because he was also into theoretical physics. He was that very close disciple of Stephen Hawking. He would certainly be at his funeral, which happened a couple of days ago. And he was also a Buddhist, very close friend, and he was in the Astronomical Society as well. And the other thing we joined together was the Psychic Research Society. So, we would go ghost hunting together, and stories about, having lectures on witchcraft and hypnosis and all this other little stuff we got up to, students. But in particular that, after a while, we had some common friends, but, lost a bit of touch with him. But he came back again for our global conference over here, and we were chatting to him. And he was saying it's amazing. He's a professor of theoretical physicist. Way up there in his intellectual achievements. He's also treasurer of the Psychic Research Society in London, over 120, 130 years old. And he was, I did also mention the flower pot experiment a few days ago, but he said that sometimes he was with his professors, going around to these mediums and spirits, and lifting tables up. And this was really top experimental physicist, and he said to me, the table was lifting up, was levitating, and the scientist was going underneath it, trying to find out how it was done. And then he told me that this top scientist said to him, this isn't happening, it can't be happening, it's not happening. He couldn't explain it, and so he said, it's not true, it's some illusion, some I'm mad or crazy or something. But it was happening. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes these things actually happen, they exist. Denying it is not enough. But one of the reasons I joined that club was because it's part of my family history. That my auntie and my mum, they grew up, actually, it was called her auntie, but it's like a second auntie or cousin. My maternal grandma had one sister, Auntie Elsie, and my grandmother, Lydia. And they had two daughters, one each. One was my mum, the other one was this lady called Opal. So because they were single children, they grew up as sisters, basically. They hung out together. And one day, I checked this out so many times. I asked my mum, I asked my auntie, did this really happen? They said, oh yeah, it happened. And, your mother, number one, wouldn't really lie to you. And, you can tell if your mother's trying to sort of tell a porcupine. And porcupine means like lie. That's slang. I asked them so many times, and they, after the Second World War, young women, trying to sort of, entertain themselves, they went to a medium, one of these spirit doctors, just for fun. Something to do, entertain themselves, not really believing in it. And then this medium looked at my auntie and said, you are soon going to meet your husband. Which was, a little bit sort of interesting. And I'll tell you his name. And the name was Donald, was the first name. That's a pretty common name. There's many Donalds around. Trump wasn't Trump. Thank goodness. He wasn't born yet. Duck. Duck was born. His first name is Donald, and the surname is Wolfries. Now, Wolfries is not a common name. So they thought it was just a joke. No way you're going to meet anyone by the name of Donald Wolfries. They said that, and she didn't know anyone called Donald Wolfries. And just a couple of days later, they were at a dance. They had dances, not nightclubs those days. Men against the wall, women, oh, can I have this dance with you, madam, or whatever, really formal. So this nice young man asked my auntie to dance. And of course, they introduced each other. Oh, What's your name? Opal. Oh, very nice. What's your name? Donald. Uh-oh. Surname, Wolfries. They're married for 60 years. He only died a couple of years ago. She's still going strong, amazing. So this was, and that's family law, and just keep asking, yep, that happened. So that is no way can you predict that. There was this other fellow in Jhana once. I had to sort of reprimanding him because his wife was here. I didn't remember that, Bianca, who it was. I think his name was David. I forget what his wife was. But they were always like, not really breaking their precepts, but always holding hands and really close together. And I said, well, you're supposed to keeping 8 precepts here. And he said, well, I've got to tell you, why we're both here. And apparently that, I think they were could have been from Holland or somewhere in Europe. And they were just at some sort of party. And he had never met this girl before, didn't know she existed. She had never met him. And she just came right up to him, totally out of the blue and said, your name is David, whatever it was, and I'm going to marry you. And imagine somebody doing that to you. They come up and they say, my name is Angelina Jolie, I'm going to marry you, and Nanda Tilakasiri. You're okay because you've got a good wife and stuff. But imagine, you're a young man and someone says that. He was just dumbstruck. That this person said that, knew the name and she said, I asked her, I said, why do you know that? I just knew. I never did any research, no Facebook or anything, or just Secret Service. I just knew who he was. I knew his name. And he said, as soon as I saw her, total fall in love with her. Just inseparable. He said it's so shocking, it's just I can't understand it, but it happened. And that's when they were here. It's really difficult to separate those two. There's something even I could, something psychic there, which they're trying their very best. They're really good people, but what can you do? So it's amazing some of the stuff which happens that way. So, but be careful, because remember Professor Lucky Jayasuriya, he told me that he was a good friend with this Professor Jaitaleki. He was a Sri Lankan Buddhist scholar, wrote many, many books. And because Professor Jayasuriya, he's retired now, he's emeritus professor in the University of Western Australia, one of the founding members of the Buddhist Society of West Australia. And he told me that him and his mate, Professor Jaitaleki, when they were in Sri Lanka, they went to Kataragama, that's the place where the mediums are around. And they just went there for fun, just young men just, exploring. And the same thing happened to Professor Jaitaleki. He said, you're going to marry, and gave, some name which, I can't pronounce it, and wouldn't even remember, some long Sri Lankan name. Professor Jaitaleki, highly educated, didn't believe a word of it, but soon met her, and they were married. And so, great professor had total faith in these spirit mediums. But Professor Jayasuriya said he had too much faith, because one day that medium said to him, oh, you're going to die at a ripe old age. And he believed that, just, okay, if the medium says I'm going to die at a ripe old age, it must happen. And when he was only about 40, in his early 40s, he got sick. Now I don't need to go and see a doctor, because I'm going to live to a ripe old age. By the time he did go to see the doctor, it was too late, and he died young. And Professor Jayasuriya, Lucky Jayasuriya, always said to me, that medium killed him, or rather his belief in it. You get it right once, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it right the next time. So that's why the mediums and spirit doctors, the people who predict the future, sometimes it's amazing, they hit the nail on the head and, wow, how could they do that? But it doesn't mean the next time it's going to be right. So on those sorts of things, my advice is never trust a poor fortune teller. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good.